Well, good afternoon from the great state of Maine. If you clicked on the video, then you read the description. I'm going to kind of spill the secrets of how we go about finding lakes. There's a few tips in here that me and my buddies have just kind of picked up over the years. A lot of public resources, a lot of stuff online that the state provides, and then just some things that we've found useful. This ice fishing season's been tough for a lot of people. There hasn't been a lot of ice, and I had a lot of people reach out to me and asking, hey, where's good ice? And also, how the hell do you find lakes that you want to fish? What's in them? So a lot of these are going to be just purely information, finding out stuff about the lake, how you can get on, but some of it's actually going to help you target how to fish in that lake. And what I mean by that is, you're going to fish different for pike than you are for salmon, than you are for brook trout, than you are for brown trout. And if you're setting in a brown trout lake on bottom, probably not going to catch anything. But if you know there's browns in there and you can set correctly, you're going to have a much better time catching fish. So the first place I usually start is Google. Wherever you're located in the state, depending on how far you're willing to drive, it's a good bet that the area around you have some lakes. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to pretend we're in Bangor, if I can spell right. And what Google will kind of give you is an idea, like I said, of everything that's around you for lakes. It'll show you bait shops. You can get local information. You can get bait. But it'll also show you public access points. Plenty of lakes have boat ramps, but there's a good number that don't. But if there's roads that get close enough with, you can park along the side as long as it's not posted. It'll show, summer camps or lodges, things like that, where you can either pay or ask permission for access. So for the sake of the video, I already picked out a lake that I like that I've been wanting to fish for a while, and that's Branch Lake. So if you zoom in, you can see there's a couple of camps, there's some beaches, a Branch Lake camping area. I'm betting that's a good access point. And you see kind of these roads, like a thoroughfare that cuts over you could probably park along that on either side and then walk out in that area. So right then and there, you already kind of know the primary way we find access to lakes is to see what's on it, who we can talk to, and where we can jump on the lake. Another neat thing to do here is to go on the maps view, and in shallower lakes, you can see kind of where the reefs and stuff are. I was looking at this earlier, and up at the north end, there's some cool boulder fields around the outside and a marsh. So if I was targeting crappie or something like that, and I knew they were in this lake, this is the basin I'd go to. If I was looking more towards the way of salmon and cold waters, I'd probably be out in the middle on some of these ledges. So that kind of brings me to the second thing that we go to look for immediately, and that's the lake surveys that the state does. They actually record the lakes every now and then, what's in it, the depths, the quality of the water, whether it's haloclines and thermoclines, which we'll talk about that in a minute, and they post these surveys. So how you find these, and there's a big repository of them, but you type in the lake and then Maine and just .gov. And it's almost always the first thing that comes up. And you can see it's a PDF of the lake. It'll say when the last survey was done most times. There you go. First surveyed, blah, blah, blah. So the last one here was 1999. Still pretty valid information. But the biggest thing we look for on this is the fish that are in the lake. So Branch has landlocked salmon, brown trout, lake trout, brook trout, rainbow smelt, pretty much everything but pike, and it looks like rainbow trout. So you can see why I'm interested in the lake. So right then and there, it tells me I'm going fishing for cold waters. It talks a little bit about kind of the areas, what the principal fishery is. It'll talk about, what's happened in the fishery. Some of the time they'll discuss whether or not there's sustainable habitat for fish to summer in, because if there's not a deep, cold area of oxygenated water, a lot of trout won't make it. So this is what this survey is good for, is looking at that stuff. And then another aspect is you'll get a topographical map as they went across the lake, dropping sounders and figuring out how deep it is. And while this isn't the most accurate thing, you can kind of gauge where some areas are going to be for fishing. For example, if I wanted to do cold waters, I'd probably stay away from this basin. It's nice and shallow, but I would probably be up in and around here. We're going from 18, 30, and then boom, dropping off to 70. There's that little cut thoroughfare. There's a lot of nice little inlets, outlets you can put some traps off of. So this is that second piece of information we always go to. Now, the third thing we're always looking at is the fishing laws. It's important to know if you're fishing in a lake that has certain restrictions, what it can give you. A lot of parts of the state are closed in the northern end to ice fishing. You can see the north and the south zone, and I'm not going to walk you through all this information, but it's good to poke around in here. It shows you the basic bag limits for all species, and then you have a county breakdown of the zones. And don't think just because something's in the north zone, it's closed. There's plenty of lakes up there that are open, and it changes every year. So, like I said, basic fishing stuff. Then the next thing to check out here is the state's special fishing laws. These are all the little codes that they use for certain things. A big one here would be ALO. So a lot of lakes are closed before the first of the year, but you still can fish them as long as you're just using lures. You know, you can't use bait. And then there's a good amount of variance in what you're allowed to keep. Both sizes, how you have to handle the fish. For example, Sebago Lake, which is a great salmon fishery for open water, you have to release all salmon while you're ice fishing immediately. You're not even supposed to bring them out of the water. So look at these codes, and then that's going to help because you're going to go up to here and you can actually type in all the ponds and lakes in the state, and the majority of them are here. So this is the lake we're looking at. This is the branch we're looking at, and you can see there's all kinds of special laws and regulations. Daily bag limit on brook trout, splakes, minimum length on togue. You can see they're trying to help the fishery by saying only one fish and only one can be a large fish. All togue between 23 and 33 inches must be released alive. That's the breeding population that they want to keep going. And then from October 1st to December 31st, it's closed to all fishing. That probably means that the salmon and the brookies are breeding and they don't want to screw with them in that lake, or they just want to give the lake a break. So that part of the state laws and regulations is a good thing to look at. And then the final thing that I'll show you before I just start talking about stuff that we use is the stocking report. And this one might get me some dirty comments from a lot of people because a lot of people don't know that this is out there. But the Maine State Fisheries, Game, Wildlife, I don't actually know who does the stocking, but it's one of the best stocking programs in the country. They stock browns, brookies, togue, and I think they still do. I think they do salmon, they do rainbows, and there's a lot of fish hatcheries. And on the state website, they have all the reports going back. Oh, geez, it looks like more than 10 years. So they have the annual stocking report, which shows you by county, by lake, the size, quantity, and type of fish that were stocked. And this is good information because you can see if a lake has had a lot of stock brookies or rainbows or what's going in it. And those surveys that I showed you don't always show everything that's in it. I'm going to fish a lake this weekend that the last survey didn't show rainbow trout. Stocking report says they've been putting them in there for the last 5 years. So this is good to look. Like I said, you go by county, you can find the pond, you can see what they put in there. And is it a little bit like shooting fish in the barrel? Yeah, but it'll help you catch fish. The other one that's cool is the brood stock fishing report. And that's when they let go the big breeders. So you can target, trophy fish by going to a lake that in the last 2 or 3 years has had a substantial amount of large fish released into it. So like Middle Rang here in Poland, brook trout, they release 15 fish in the 20-inch size class. Now that doesn't mean they're all 20 inches, but a good majority of them are going to be larger fish. They stocked Middle Rang a good amount with some big fish. So that's the stocking report. And again, I might get some dirty comments for talking about that one, but it's a really cool resource. The final things that I'll talk about now are, YouTube. It's silly, but if you YouTube a lake, and we're going to do branch just for the sake of the video, because that's what we've been working with. I'm betting if it's a good lake, there's people that were fishing on it. So, you can see, here we go, right here. This guy, Maine Outdoor Productions, we'll give him a shout out. 2 years ago, looks like he caught a pretty large laker on branch. So it's funny, but you can probably find a video on the lake you want to fish and see what was in there where people had success. And if you want to be really sneaky, try and figure out where they were fishing. I know a lot of people do it on my videos. Then the final thing, and I'm going to switch the screen over to my cell phone here, that I always use is Navionics. So those state lake surveys we talked about, they show a good amount of the depth, they show the soundings, but it doesn't show perfect contours, and they're not incredibly accurate from time to time. Navionics, however, is a real-time map that you can buy that is off your phone that shows your location, and it'll show most times boat ramps and all other kinds of stuff, but it really does a good job showing the underwater contours and how the lake and the structure is. Not always important for fish, but for things like lakers or for some of the fish like pike where you need a big flat, it'll give you the structure and the intel you need to put yourself where you need to go. And then some of the bonus ones I'll talk about. So Fish Brain, it's an app. It's like Instagram for fishermen. You can see who's caught the fish in the area. It isn't the most well-utilized app. I only got a couple fish on there, but a lot of times you'll be able to see what was caught in that area, and that'll give you even more information. And there's usually photos. The Maine Department of Inland Fisheries has a blog, and a lot of times they'll do profiles on bigger lakes. I once camped on Swan Lake, and I used this big, long piece of information that they had written up on it to help me with my fishing. And then finally, webcams. And this one plays back to the ice conditions. A lot of people don't live in the area they want to fish, or they're coming up on vacation, and they don't know anybody in the area, or they can't drive for 2.5 hours one direction to check the conditions on the ice. A lot of lakes, or a lot of towns, if there's a part of the town that's on the lake, has a webcam pointed at the lake that you can access online. Sebago's got one, Keyser Lake's got one, I think Moosehead's got a couple, and I think there's a few near like Maranacook and Great Pond. So if you can find them and save the links and the sites online, you can look in real time and see if there's ice, or even better, if there's people out there. Still check, make sure everything's good though. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you found this information helpful. Hopefully it helps you become better fishermen, and hopefully I don't get too much hate from people that knew about this stuff and are mad for me sharing these secrets. But it's all just about getting out there and having a good time, catching more fish. Good luck the rest of the season. Yeah, if you like the content, like and subscribe. Next week, I'm going to go back to just straight catching fish. No more talking indoors. Have a good one.